Good morning, church. This morning we're going to spend a little bit of time in the scriptures and continue in our series of Jesus the Same. This morning we're going to be talking about specifically the sincerity of Jesus. And I have to be honest, personally, this was a hard topic for me to speak on. Primarily it was difficult because I spend a good bit of my time at work with people who are not entirely sincere when I deal with them. I've got employees who don't always tell me the truth with sincerity. I've got clients that are oftentimes struggle with whether or not they're telling me the truth or simply trying to get a better deal on a consulting engagement. But today we're going to explore the sincerity of Jesus. And this is the second chapter that we're talking about. And we've dedicated this fall to learn more about Jesus, to draw closer to Jesus, and not simply intellectual knowledge about Jesus or facts about Jesus. We're looking to make a heart connection with him by learning about him, appreciating some of his more finer qualities, and then drawing closer to him at a heart level. When you think about Jesus' sincerity, you have to understand first what sincerity itself means. And there are many great virtues and character traits that we're going to learn about, whether it's courage or generosity or loyalty. And some of them are great attributes to have. But without the foundational part of integrity, honesty, sincerity, you can't build a relationship. You can't have a healthy marriage without sincerity. And you definitely cannot have a healthy relationship with God if it's not based on sincerity. Our hearts crave for sincerity. Instinctively, we know this because when someone is insincere with us, when someone seeks to deceive us, when someone is insincere, we feel it. We're repulsed by it. We have a visceral reaction. We see it oftentimes in our politicians, or if the last time you went to buy a used car. You understand when people have ulterior motives for what they say and they do. Now, if you happen to be either a politician and listening or a used car salesman, I am sure that there are sincere members of both communities, but I haven't met one yet. But so I'll give it to you another way. Think of it as parents. We want our children to be sincere. We want them to be honest. We want them to be true with us, honest and true. But children are so honest. They're free from pretense. If you ever want to know how your new haircut looks, ask a child. Right? They will tell you the unadulterated truth. I want you to look at this video and think about the sincerity and the honesty in these two young men. They're adorable, and I want you to just see exactly what I mean. A great example of true sincerity.
Please welcome 3-year-old James. Mr. Mayor, how are you?
Good.
You want to grab a seat?
Sure.
You're the mayor at 3 years old?
Yes.
What are your duties as the mayor?
I shake everybody's hands. Your pants are black and my pants are black.
Look, man, I wore my black pants because they said that the mayor was going to wear black pants, so I said I better wear my black pants. And look, we both got on black shoes.
Yeah. And black laces.
Black laces.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, James. What's the best thing that's happened to you since you've been mayor?
My brother was a mayor twice.
How old is your brother? 30?
No.
26?
No. How old are you, Robert?
Can he come up? Come here. How are you, sir?
Good.
Good. Come on over here.
My brother got black shoes on like me and you, Steve Harvey.
He got black shoes on like me and you.
Yeah.
This is the Black Shoe Day.
Yep.
You've been the mayor?
Twice. I already said that, Robert.
Yeah, James told us you had been the mayor twice. Do you give your brother any tips on how to be mayor?
Yeah.
Like what?
When you shake people's hands, you shake them with the right, and when you talk to them, you look them in the eyes.
Wow. That's pretty good, man.
So, Mr. Harvey?
Yes, sir?
I need to tell you something really quick. Because I like people.
You what?
I like people.
You like people? That's good. You know what I think, James? I think a lot of people like you, too. How do you get to be mayor?
Somebody shakes up this bucket or a hat, and then they pull out this card.
Are you kidding
And
me?
then there's will be a name on it, and whoever's name is on it, they get to be mayor.
Huh?
Everybody, don't interrupt me when I'm talking to Steve Harvey. Mr. Harvey?
Yes, sir?
You're the bestest man in the world.
Hey, James, I love you.
You do?
You're very respectful. You call me Mr. Harvey. You're only 3. I love you, man.
Wasn't that an adorable video? You know sincerity when you see it. The video warms our hearts because those 2 little boys were so genuine. They were so sincere. And I, for one, I love Steve Harvey. I think he's hysterical. But when you see that video, it's no wonder that Jesus himself said in Matthew 19, verse 14, "Do not hinder the children, let them come to me." And in Matthew 18, verse 3, he said to those who were listening to him that you must change and become like little children to enter the kingdom. It's because of their honesty, because of their sincerity, because of the purity of their hearts that Jesus valued children. But when we grow up, we learn to have agendas or to have ulterior motives. And yet, when we see a video like that or we hear the words of Jesus, we wonder why we value sincerity. Why did that conversation warm our hearts? I bet you many of you smiled and many of you laughed when you heard those young men. But why is it that something like that warms our hearts? Because sincerity is free from pretense. It's free from deceit. In other words, you say what you mean and you mean what you say. If you do things with sincerity, people instantly trust you. People instantly gravitate towards you. When you encounter a sincere person, you know that what you see is what you get, and there's comfort, there's security in that. I'll put it another way. When we call someone a friend, we use a lot of different words to describe them. You'll say, they're my best friend. Or you'll say, those are my high school friends that I grew up with. Or those are friends from the neighborhood. But one word that we never describe a friend with is insincere. We would never say to someone, oh, this is so-and-so. He is my insincere friend. Even saying those words don't sound right. And it's because those words are like oil and water. They don't go together. A friend and insincerity do not mix. But we crave sincerity. Our hearts desire for sincerity. Why? Because God has written his truth on our hearts. He's written it on our consciences. That's what Romans 2 verse 15 says. As followers of Jesus, the Bible teaches in 3 John 1:3 that we should walk in truth. That's why sincerity is so valuable to us. That we should love the truth and believe in the truth, as it says in 2 Thessalonians 2:10 through 12. And we are to speak the truth in love to one another. Ephesians 4:32. Sincerity and truth are more than simply just a moral guide or some nice traits to possess. You see, truth has eternal ramifications. Read with me in John chapter 14, verse 1 and 6. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am coming there to make a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, so that you also may be where I am. You know the place to where I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way? Jesus answered, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. You see, truth has eternal ramifications. Jesus declared, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He didn't say that he was going to show us the truth. He didn't say he was going to teach the truth or model the truth. He is the truth. He is truth personified. He is the source of all truth, the embodiment of all truth, and therefore the single reference point for evaluating all other truth claims. See, he had no pretense. He had no ulterior motive. He lived out his beliefs and convictions and did not pretend to be something that he was not. Jesus was sincere in everything he did. And it was that sincerity that drove him to share his heart about his relationship with his Father and to speak plainly about these things. Because he was that sincere man of truth, he could not hold back. He could not hold back the fact that he was the way, the truth, and the life. That he was the good shepherd to go get the sheep. That he was the gate that the sheep must pass through. That he was the bread of life. That he was the light of the world. That he was a man of truth. He could not hold back the fact that the road was narrow and the gate was small and that only a few will find it. Because he was that man of truth, he distinguished between the sheep and the goats. And he plainly told us how we could determine where we stood. You see, when you're in the presence of a man or a woman who loves like Jesus and is sincere, you feel secure because you learn and you know about God. All too often, unfortunately, people's response to sincerity of Jesus is like what we read about in John chapter 18. Turn over to John chapter 18. In John 18, once Jesus was arrested and bound, he was brought to Annas to face false charges, and then to the high priest Caiaphas. Eventually he was brought before Pilate, the Roman governor, and Pilate begins to question Jesus, trying to figure out a way to release him, for he knew that he was innocent. And they discuss what the Jewish religious leaders claimed Jesus to be and the reason for his arrest. We pick up the story midway, but what you see in Pilate's reaction is the most common reaction when faced with a person with absolute sincerity, who speaks the truth. In verse 37, Pilate says, "You are a king then." And Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." And Pilate's response was, "What is truth?" You know, it's interesting to me that Pilate's response is all too common today. When faced with absolute truth and people who speak with sincerity, we make up wild questions to sidestep our uncomfortable feeling when we face the truth. You see, facing the truth is the need of the hour today. We have to face the truth about where our life choices have brought us. We have to face the truth that we've neglected relationships that challenge us because they make us feel uncomfortable, so we avoid people who challenge us. We have to face the truth that our priorities may have changed over the last 16 to 18 months, and that we may need to rededicate ourselves to Jesus being the Lord of our lives and our time and our comfort. You see, the outcome of Pilate's question, we know what that outcome is and how it led to, though Pilate was so close, he was so close to the truth, it led him to turn Jesus over to be crucified. Let us not allow ourselves to be so close to the truth, but because of our inaction or because of our drifting, lead us to ask, really, what is truth? Can we really define truth? And lose the chance to have that truth live inside of us. You see, sincerity in its purest form comes from Jesus. When Jesus speaks, there's no hint of selfish ambition or selfishness. He was never concerned with himself or his own welfare. You see, insincerity is born from seeking praise from other people. When Jesus speaks, there's nothing but genuine love and genuine concern for those who are listening. However, when Jesus spoke, he did save his strongest and harshest challenges for the religious leaders who were hypocrites. Nothing angered Jesus more than hypocrisy. You see, Jesus understood that hypocrisy is what shipwrecks people's faith. Hypocrisy causes people to question and doubt the goodness of God. When they see hypocrisy in those who claim to represent him and they yet live a double life, that is the epitome of insincerity. You may have heard it before, but the origin of the word hypocrite was taken from ancient theater times. It was used to when an actor would be on stage playing a role. And we think about that now, and we find that to be interesting for me personally because, I would never, ever look at an actor and say, "You deceived me." You see, Harrison Ford, I believed you were really Han Solo. And then I saw you play Indiana Jones, and then I saw you play the President of the United States, and I can't believe a word you say. I can't trust you. We would never say such a thing. Because watching an actor play a role doesn't damage our faith, doesn't offend us, because we understand that Harrison Ford is paid to play a role. And therefore, he is acting a certain way, and we get to enjoy it. But when it comes to those of us who claim to walk the way Jesus walked, we call ourselves Christians, attempting to live a Christ-like life in our daily lives. God desires us to be exactly what we claim, not to put on a show, not to act like something we're not, if we say things we don't mean or simply parrot words or phrases that we've heard others say, but we don't believe them, nor we live them, we become just like that actor who simply plays a part. I'll go one step further. When we give pat answers to difficult situations, and we tell people in difficult times, just trust God, or just pray about it, or my thoughts and prayers are with you, but we don't pray, we don't believe in trusting in God ourselves, we are simply play acting. And you're fooling everyone around you, but you're not fooling God. Some of us know that we need help in our marriages. Some of us know that our Bible study and our devotional time with God has become stale. Some of us know that we're giving in to sin and we're not talking about it. We're not sharing with it. We're not confessing. We're not praying with others about it. And we know that we don't have that connection with God. You see, by nature, I'm an introvert. I am tempted to retreat into myself, and that is something that I work on. That is something that I have to surrender to God and continually learn from people like my wife, who is an extrovert, and how she treats people special, how she finds time to get with people. And I have to learn to challenge myself to be like that, because I see the qualities in Arlene I see in Jesus. And those are the things that I want to imitate. But I don't do it to play a role. I do it to transform myself from the inside out. See, the reason why sincerity is so important is because when you deal with truth and you face the truth, you can draw power from that truth. You see, centuries have passed since Jesus died, and a lot of things have been said about him. People have called him a fanatic. People have tried to call him a visionary, or they have said he was a leader of a Jewish sect, or simply a dreamer. But the fact is, no one has ever dared to call Jesus a liar. Jesus' unquestionable loyalty to the truth gives his words value and weight that no other words possess. When we listen to the words of other men, many times we have to make concessions for their lives because we know that they're not perfect. I know, as I stand here sharing these things with you, I am not perfect. My life is far from perfect. But I am humbly trying to imitate what I see in Jesus. The one thing I do is stand for the truth. Since my children were young and I was a young parent, I would ask them as often as I could these simple questions. Do you see Dad act differently at church than he does at home? That simple question I asked because I knew that hypocrisy would kill a child's faith. Hypocrisy at home would kill a child's faith more than anything else. That if my children thought that I was one way at church, another way at home, another way at work, then they would believe that I was acting a role in being hypocritical. And then I would wait for the answer when I asked. I knew that hypocrisy was like poison to a child. I can honestly say there were times where the kids pointed out things like my temper, or when they addressed the words that I use, or my speech or my tone needed to change, or the things how I would treat Arlene in certain ways, that they would point these things out, and boy, they were difficult to hear, but I was so grateful because I wanted them to know that their dad wanted to put God first and change to be more like Jesus. You know, 1 John 1:8 says, if we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. And though I'm not a perfect man, That's not the case with Jesus. When we hear his words and we see his words, there's a certainty in his words that demonstrates his heart and his relationship with God. And that is where we can get strength and power from. In our time of need, whether it's in a storm of life or whether you're dealing with stress, that is our refuge. Because the deceptions of the world, they can't meet our needs, but Jesus' words can be the anchors for our soul. We can draw power from the sheer fact that no man spoke more truer words than Jesus. Today, I want you to decide that sincerity is going to be a hallmark of your life. Decide today to be sincere with God. Decide today to be honest and sincere with ourselves. And decide to be sincere with each other. Pick one or two or three people that you're going to be just brutally honest and sincere with. Stop playing a role that you think is needed in church and simply be honest. Well, you must ask yourself, well, how do we maintain this life of sincerity? I got 4 suggestions for you. 1, like I just said, reflect. We need to reflect on the cross. We need to reflect on the grace. Romans chapter 12:1 talks about it very well. We need to reflect, despite our many sins, on the fact that God has forgiven us, and gratitude will propel us. Secondly, depend on God and his Spirit. That alone will transform you. Meditate on scriptures like 1 Corinthians 13:4, where it talks about love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast. These remind us of what true biblical love is. And then take action. It's great to reflect, it's great to depend, it's great to meditate, but then take action. Keep doing good to others every opportunity you have. Allow yourself to be open and sincere with those around you. You know, Jesus' sincerity is something that is transformative if we allow it to change us to become men and women who are sincere. His example and his sacrifice is something that, as we prepare our hearts for the communion, that we should remember.